Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech protected.
Good
morning,
afternoon, all the above. I'm Chris Coates.
Randy Filio.
And this is Spotlight Keene. And
we're back again.
Yep, for another show.
Yep.
Got a lot to talk about.
Our contract got renewed. Our salaries got confirmed.
Yeah.
You know, 0 times 0. We work for cheap.
Yeah. Got a lot to talk about. I want to start off with, though, did you or anybody out there watch the Grammys the other day?
You know, it's funny, Chris, because
you probably were in sleep by then, right?
I actually stayed up, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, it was just like, man, you know, didn't enjoy the Grammys at all. Actually, didn't even know any of the performers because I guess I'm getting a little older.
Right.
But we watched this one, you know, and a lot of it, like a lot of people are curious for the Taylor Swift part of it. It's like, you know, but all in all, I thought it was an excellent presentation. You know, they had, I guess, some throwback singers that we would more relate to. But I thought the whole production of the Grammys this year was excellent. And, you know, bringing back some old stars, you know. Yeah. And I thought they did a phenomenal job. And, yes, I stayed up till 11 o'clock, damn it. You know?
No, I enjoyed some of it. Some of it I thought was... You know, I was flipping back and forth. There was 3 people I wanted to see. Tracy Chapman I thought was outstanding. Yep. I love Fast Car, and the duet was just perfect. And she has such a great smile. I mean, just to think about it, she was found on what is it, Harvard Square, or Cambridge Square, down in that area, playing guitar on a corner. Yep. And everything became a different reality when somebody signed her and she did the music she did. Joni Mitchell. I mean, I watched the Newport. If you ever go on YouTube, do the Newport Jazz Festival, Joni Mitchell, and you know, coming back. That's what the award she got was for. Like, it was a Grammy for her performance there, and but that was amazing.
Well, Joni Mitchell,
that just makes you cry.
Well, she had a stroke a while back, and she couldn't even speak.
An aneurysm, right?
Yeah, couldn't even speak. And then she comes back, learns to speak, learns to sing, and actually had a good voice at, how old is she, 80, 81?
80.
And phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you had the old rocker, Billy Joel.
Billy Joel, I mean, he can still sing, man. He can still do it, and so that stuff was great. You know, I thought that was really entertaining. I will tell. Did you get down to the ice festival? I did not. So you have to tell me if you did, because you have to tell me what it was like and stuff. I had to go to a funeral instead.
Yes, it went. There was ice carvers.
Yeah.
One complaint that I heard, very well packed. I mean, packed.
Yeah.
It was by far the best attended ice festival I've seen down there. I mean, it was jammed. One complaint I heard that we might have to look at it next year, it was so packed that people crossing the streets were ignoring the lights.
Yeah. I heard
that they were just walking out. And so they might need a couple of officers or somebody doing traffic control next year to have people wait to the walk lights.
I went to Muse on Sunday. I went to Muse for lunch, and some of the people that were there came in. And when you sit in the window, people all of a sudden wave, and the next thing you know, they come into the table and they talk. And some people came in, and we asked them about it, and they said, yeah, and they said exactly what you said, that they're going to have to take a look at maybe changing things up a little bit with people just really, you know, walking across the street, because somebody's going to get hit. Somebody's going to get frustrated or something like that, or a child's going to all of a sudden pull away from their parent, and so they should really think about closing it. That's what I did here.
Yep. Because it gets so busy. It's becoming so there's a couple of ways to look at it. One, you might, you know, they might either have to have police officers or traffic control downtown, or we might have to do kind of what they do with the Pride Festival and a couple of the others, make the footprint smaller, and maybe just have it around Central Square. Yeah. You know, and the traffic on the lower parts of Main Street stays the same. Yeah. But you actually, and I think that's what they're going to have to do. Yeah. And then, I mean, people will still, you know, just like the Pride Festival, they're still going to go in and shop the shops and the restaurants, but maybe just keep the ice sculptures up on Central Square.
Right.
And allow people to actually walk in the street. I think that's what they're heading for. Because the good news was it was packed. The bad news was it was really packed.
Yeah. Well, it was
nice weather.
obvious. It was obvious on Friday night, and on Sunday, seeing people out and about, and you didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
That's always. I mean, not that I didn't know anybody. There were people, but there was a lot of people I had no idea. So that means that they're visitors, and a lot of them they had young men or women with them that had Keene State College sweatshirts on.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if, like, Keene State College made it a thing that this was going on to have their families come up and enjoy, family time together, or for students that were thinking about attending Keene State College, was this a big weekend for them? And did they have a home basketball game? I mean, look at the Keene State College basketball team right now. I mean, and with the individual that was just named to the top 25 best Division III players in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing to me. So it sounded like it was a good weekend.
No, Keene State did have basketball games on Saturday.
Yeah.
And they also had hockey games, and Keene High had hockey games also. So there was a lot going on at the same time.
Well, what's exciting for me is that Keene High's basketball and hockey programs are that 500 one game over kind of thing right now.
Competitive.
So they're competitive, right?
Yeah.
And that's always entertaining. I mean, if I've always said if they're competitive, you have a chance to win.
Yep.
That's all you need, is just to be competitive.
And lower, doesn't get as much press as the Keene ski teams, cross country and downhill, both doing very well. Unfortunately, the best female skier on the Keene High team, she's a junior. She's my niece, Anna Dumont, one of the top skiers in the state.
Is that Bobby's?
Yeah, Bob's
Okay.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
Bob. Anyhow, unfortunately, on Sunday, she was doing she also teaches as a junior. She was up at Crotched Mountain, was on a back trail, was coming down and hit a patch of ice, and one ski went out, and unfortunately, she was right near an old pole and hit it and broke her femur in 3 places.
No kidding.
She's in a cast from her hip to her toes.
Oh, my Lord.
So, yeah, season's over, obviously.
Yeah, that's going to be a little rehab.
Yeah, a little bit of
I wonder
rehab
if they had
there.
to put a titanium
Didn't need surgery.
Wow.
Fortunate there.
Wow.
And it was a back trail. Nobody was around her. She does like her father, Bob.
Yeah.
Goes off and skis by herself because she's such a superb skier. Fortunately,
have a
today's
radio?
day and age, she was way on the back trail. She had her cell phone on her
Yeah.
and called, and a friend, they sent up the ski patrol, and it was over at Crotched Mountain, so they took her to the Peterborough Hospital. And
Yeah. Wow.
so, yeah, unfortunately, her season's over, but, she's tough. She's tough, and she'll recover, but
Yeah.
it won't be this year. It'll be laid up, and I can't imagine having a cast all the way from your top of your thigh to your toes.
Yeah. Well, Bobby's been a skier all his life.
He was born with skis.
Yeah,
He had trouble giving birth because the skis got in the way a little bit, but
Yeah.
he teaches up at and he's Bob's always been. He's up at Granite Gorge, giving lessons up there too. And my wife Holly's an excellent skier, and then there's me. Yeah, I got to the point where I can make it down the hill.
Yeah.
A very small hill and not a very steep hill. But now I was never the great winter sport person outside of my old sleds with the steel runners like you and I used to have. And that was about it for my winter sports.
Yeah, I hadn't been on skis, or as I say, I hadn't been on the boards for 8-9 years. And this Christmas, I went skiing. I said to my son-in-law, I said, it may not be pretty, or it could be a disaster. That's the best it's going to be.
Yeah.
And he's like, he got behind me at one point, and I'm skiing. He's like, actually, you got great rhythm. And I'm like, it's the skis. It is, because the skis nowadays compared to what they were are 2 different worlds.
The ones that I had were so heavy, long and so heavy.
Yeah, so these, just making it cut, the cut in the it was just easy. So
see, I could have been an excellent skier. It was the damn skis, Chris. I'm telling you. It wasn't me.
That's like I always say, that I was NHL caliber goalie at Robin Hood Park. It's just that I couldn't skate. I wore boots.
Yeah, same with me.
I could stop everything on boots.
You want to go back in history and dig out through the old history books, go to the old floor hockey league at the rec center back when I was at Roosevelt School. I think I'm still on the record book there. But then they said, well, real hockey have skates, and I'm like, well, that screws things up.
Yeah.
And that was the end of my hockey career.
So let's dig in. Let's talk about you were busy on Saturday. You weren't that busy. You guys, what? How long were you there?
A little over 2 hours.
All right, that's average. That's average. That's not a bad meeting.
Yeah, it was all because of the first article. After that, it was over in about 5 minutes. But.
Yeah. So the first article, and this we're talking about the Keene School District, and Randy sits on the school board. So, is your term up this year?
Nope.
Next year?
Another year to go.
Yeah, another year to go?
Yep.
And you've got actually 3 city councilors on there, right?
On the school board, yeah.
Yeah. And so you got Raleigh and Chris Roberts.
Right.
Raleigh Almirad and Chris Roberts.
Yep.
And so you guys can be blamed for at least 2 levels of bumping up my taxes, right?
Yep, and then they can find the real cause of it, and that's the county, which...
You want to go down that road? You really want to go down that road?
Well, you know what? It's always easier.
What was the taxes to be raised from the county last year?
The easiest thing we always do is just blame the state.
Yeah, that's right.
Blame the state.
That's right.
You know. So,
so let's start with the Article 1, which is the main budget. So it was to approve a $75,686,255 budget.
Yep.
And that was an increase of what? Let me see. Default budget. Oh, and also to approve that when you go to vote, if you don't approve it, it's a $74 million and change.
So basically what happened, Chris, was, we had that budget there. And obviously it is an increase. Last year, the voters approved teachers' pay raises, which obviously it goes up over 3 or 4 years. But one of the issues that the only reason the meeting took 2 hours instead of 15 minutes was the majority of those in attendance voted to add another $500,000 to the budget for
special ed. That you guys had cut out, right?
Positions. Well,
you took the advice of leadership.
Right, exactly. What they showed was, and the reason that the board went with, is actually 3 less teachers in 3 schools, because the 4th school didn't even ask for the teacher. But, the voters decided to put it back in anyhow. The other 3, as we showed, we have a screen like this behind us, we showed that when COVID hit, at least 3 other schools got an extra special needs teacher because
social
students with social needs went up. COVID just raised havoc.
Yeah.
What we were showing was now from COVID 21-22, the numbers of special needs students came back down to pre-COVID levels. So all the administration of the board was doing was going back to pre-COVID levels. It really wasn't eliminating somebody for the sake of eliminating them. It was just saying that position doesn't need to be filled because we're at a level prior to COVID.
But was the argument that the levels are going back down with the numbers that we have in place, and if you take those numbers away, you could see a spike up because you're losing people that are now currently helping with those situations? Is that the argument?
Yeah, it was. I mean, and for every action, there's a reaction. For every argument, there's a counter argument.
No.
Yeah. And so nobody's really wrong per se when you look at how you want to look at a figure and you justify it your way. I mean, as a board member, you can kind of see it both ways, but you also see it from a taxpayer's point of view.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, when the numbers spike, you added it, and when the numbers come down, you take it away.
Yeah.
So, but in the end, I mean, there was only about 80 people there, and 2/3 voted to put the $500,000 back in.
But that doesn't. That must have been explained to them that $500,000 doesn't mean it goes towards that, right?
Right. It was very well explained.
Be.
Right. No, it was very well explained, and the question was asked, and the moderator answered it. And
who is the moderator now?
Kathy.
Okay.
Donald's still the moderator. Does a very good job.
She does.
George Downing, the chair of our school board, explained that, by law, we don't have to put that $500,000 where you want it. But the school board has always said, if that's the wishes of the voting community and that's what you're saying, that's where we'll put it. We're not going to be arrogant and say, oh, gave us $500,000, we're going to put it somewhere else. No, we will do what the voters say to do. But now it goes to to a vote in March at the rec center. And the concern of some of us on the board was, if you vote no on the budget, it goes back to the default budget. Well, the default budget, with that $500,000 added on, the default budget would be about $1,300,000, $1,400,000 or less. Our concern is that extra money might entice some taxpayers to say, you know what, we're going to go to the default budget and save $1,300,000. If they do that, the problem that's going to face the school board is, not only do you lose that $500,000 that they put in, now we've got to cut another $800,000. Where does that come from? And that could be, I don't like to use the word catastrophic, but it'll be significant.
My first year, we had to cut $1.6 million because they went to the default budget.
Well, they must have cut your salary.
Yeah, that was it is,
and that's what happens.
And it's dangerous. So
it's
right.
dangerous, and then you're really cutting in. There's not a lot of, and I know people like to think there's a lot of fat in these budgets. There's not, and as we've seen in the courts have ruled that the state of New Hampshire underfunds public schools dramatically, not just a little bit, dramatically. And what is the Republican-controlled state legislature saying to the court's ruling? We're going to ignore it, like they always do.
Well, I mean, look at Claremont was passed when,
How many years ago?
And now Conval just won its case.
Right.
And
but there's no enforcement. There's no enforcement. The courts can rule all they want, and the legislature just ignores it.
Yeah. I mean, there was an interesting thing this week. There was a bill that would take all social emotional learning out of the schools.
Yeah, what does that mean?
And what it would mean is that you couldn't, they said they only want you to teach this, no,
no emotion.
Yeah, no, the kids aren't coming to you in need, and that they can't learn how to work together. And it was crazy.
Yeah,
and it's just, I wish they'd just allow public education to do what they need to do. I mean, it's worked for so many.
Yep.
If people choose to go to a different school, that's fine. I have no issue with that. When I was chair of the school board, I had a working relationship with the executive director of the Surrey Village Charter School, because I felt it was important to have that relationship.
You got to have communication.
And
open communication.
And so maybe 2 times a year we would have a conversation, and that was all we needed to do. But it was so that they understood, especially when at the time their students hit a certain grade, then they were coming to Keene High School. 8th
Right.
grade, they'd come to Keene High School afterwards, and so it was important to have those discussions to see if there was anything we could do to support that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I still say one of the biggest weaknesses of the Keene School District, and it has been for a while, is we don't tell our story. There's so many great stories that can be told. Yes, the Sentinel does some articles about sports things that are going on, but there's so many cool things that are happening in our schools that we should be really, and about teachers, not just students, but teachers too.
No, you're right. And I mean, just look at it from the political point of view. When elections come up for city councilors, 6 months out or whatever, it's in the news all week long, a couple times a week. These councilors are up for re-election. These people are going to run. School board, we have 3 members coming up. People don't even know who the 3 members that are coming up. They don't know anything about the terms. They don't know when to submit. There's just no press on it whatsoever. And you're right. And the school budget obviously exceeds the city budget and the county budget. It just doesn't get the press.
Yeah.
Both ways. I don't think we get our feet held to the fire, which is fine. I don't mind my feet being held to the fire because I'll always defend whatever my vote is. People agree or disagree, but I'll defend it. But city council, I mean, our feet are held to the fire every day. Speaking of city council, I mean, the downtown projects coming up again, and you want to see something that's going to get media attention in time.
Well, I mean, I want to jump to there.
We'll jump that after
in a few minutes because there's been another bump up in cost, and I want to understand that a little bit more because we went from $7 million to $14 million now to $16 million, and so I just want to understand why that is.
$10 million among friends. Come on.
Yeah. All right. So you had negotiations for the custodians. And that what I don't like in the motion is that I wish they would just give you the percentage of increase all along the way. There's no percentages of increases in here.
And it's
so
funny.
At the end of the day, what is the percentage of increase from last year to this year? Is it 3 point something?
Yeah, I'll have to get you the final number on that. One of the things we talked about percentages too that sometimes can be skewed is like you have things like custodians and in some smaller professional groups. And you talk percentage, and you might have said, it went up 10%, which sounds huge. But the dollar figure, because there's only a handful of people there, might have been very small.
Yeah, I mean, the impact to some of these is, all of them.
Negligible.
These are the contracts, when you negotiate them, that they're easier to swallow because they're all small overall. I mean,
dollar-wise, they're small, relatively speaking.
Keene office professionals in the first year is $56,000, and the final year is $32,000.
Right.
I mean, in the scheme of things, yes, it's an increase, but in the scheme of things, it's not.
Dollar-wise, it's small.
Yeah. And then it's unexpected fund balance transfer to building maintenance fund of $200,000, and so do you know where that stands? Where that fund stands currently?
I don't have the exact number right here in front of me. I don't.
What? I'm asking these questions, man.
Don't only ask questions I have the answer to right in front of you.
All right. So those are two.
The building fund's holding current.
Do you guys have an area that you want to get it to? Like 1.5 million or 500,000 or.
At this point, Chris, I'd like to see it get to at least $500,000 in reserve. That's one of the issues that scares me now about a default budget. If you got a default budget, you can pretty much kiss that goodbye.
Well, and I think people need to understand that, like, a few years ago, we had a maintenance fund that we put monies into, and people are like, "Wow, that's really getting up there." That's because we took the purchase of the selling of the old Keene Middle School and put it into that fund. And guess what? A boiler, the two boiler systems out at Keene High School went down, and we had to replace. And that was like a $800,000 cost, like that. But we had that fund.
You got to have it in reserve.
So it's always nice to have some level. My always concern is how much is enough and how much is too much.
Right. Yeah, you got to try to justify. I think that's a good point. You justify it. How much is it if we lose a boiler?
Yeah.
Because they'll usually go right in the middle of the winter. They're not gonna. Something is not gonna go on an ideal day.
Yeah.
It's just like and they've had pipe bursts out there, and I think that was kind of connected with that.
Yeah.
You have to have monies in reserve. Which, going back again, that's what concerns me. If we go to the default budget and we've got to cut another $800,000, I mean, where does it come from?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, you have to remember this: that 80 to 85% of any of the municipal's budgets are staff and healthcare.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that 20 to 15% that's left are things that you're going to look at.
What I've been trying to get done, which is a non-teacher issue, and that gets a lot of usage now, is the bathrooms at Alumni Field, at the baseball fields. They've been there since the 50s. They're the same bathrooms. And that the Alumni Field now, between high school and tournaments and the Swamp Bats, brings a ton of revenue into the city.
Yeah.
But the bathrooms, they kind of remind me when they had the old ice arena down in Swansea, those bathrooms. Mm-hmm. People come in from out of town for tournaments, whatever, and they go into these bathrooms, they're like, really? I just got, I get bumped up that I'm actually chairman of the Buildings and Facilities Committee now for the school board. It's like, this is what I needed, another headache to have to deal with. But that's one area that I'm trying to do, is get those bathrooms fixed up now. Whether there's some grants out there or some monies outside of the tax base, I'm looking for it. but I'll meet with the supervisor of grounds, Ken Dooley, tonight.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a school committee meeting tonight just to discuss that. And I'm trying to get the bathrooms fixed because they're just, they're an embarrassment. A guy, I guess, men were like, yeah, whatever. We've been in some pretty bad bathrooms. Women don't want to go into a bad bathroom. They just don't. Go to a restaurant or something sometime and the ladies' room is in disrepair. Your wife's not going to want to go there anymore. So that's the same with Alumni Field. So we need to upgrade the bathrooms. But once again, that's kind of at the tail end of the spectrum as far as where the dollars are.
Yeah.
So, that's a concern.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that. I want to get them fixed. I want, the people to come to Keene, to come to the tournaments. Because literally, if you have bad bathrooms,
you can't host things.
You can't host things.
Like,
nope.
You
nope.
can't. You can hold like the Connecticut Valley cross country meet. You can do some of those, but I actually think some of those in the past, and I could be wrong, have been held at the middle school. And if it's middle school, the track's close enough to go into the building, but at the Keene High School, you need it.
Alumni Field is way out.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago where you couldn't have any type of ice hockey tournaments in town. Nothing.
Because of the barn.
Because we had the barn. And now Keene State in the school, the university system is putting $1 million into Keene Ice to build new locker rooms.
Correct.
And once again, now we're going to get more of a draw with people coming into Keene. And when they come into Keene, they spend money.
Yeah.
So anyhow, it's all connected. It's funny. You don't think about it that much, but
the key is
you got to have bathrooms.
The key is is that 80 people came out. I would have come out. I would have been there, but I again went to a funeral. But 80 people, and that's been the norm for a long time. 80 to 120 is about what you get.
Yeah. Literally, we're in the auditorium, and I'm looking out at the crowd.
Which is dangerous. It is dangerous.
It could be very dangerous. Of course, the free Keeners now they're relatively dissolved compared to what they used to be, but you can get a group in there and get enough for a majority and swing.
What was it? Was it Limster or Unity?
Croydon, New Hampshire.
Where somebody came in and they were able to pass something, and it was devastating to the point where they had to come back and do throw the person. Just redo everything all over again down the road. But it was devastating in the meantime.
I always say silence is never an option, and once you go quiet on something, I looked out at the crowd, or I could say lack of crowd, and we're starting the meeting, and I'm looking out, and it was virtually, I'm looking at an auditorium of empty seats.
Ted Parent there?
Nope.
Oh man,
he wasn't there, and you
legendary.
couldn't make it, so that cut about an hour off the meeting.
So let's move on. You guys also had the capital improvement program that you're now in the midst as you prep for this.
Yep,
city
switching
budget.
budgets. That's the city. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, what's today? We're doing this on Tuesday, so Thursday night, Public Works comes in, and that's usually the most expensive. We talked about it the other night that, you look at things that $50, $60, $70, $100,000. And we talk about the boiler going at the high school. This year down on Martell Court, where the water treatment comes through, we had a massive failure.
Yeah.
And those aren't cheap.
No.
A valve, $100,000, just like that.
Well, I have a water sewers plant up at the nursing home, so I know all about all of that.
They ain't cheap.
Yeah.
And
that's not the first time Martell Court's had some issues.
No, it's old.
Or where we've had to upgrade certain things.
It's old.
So, yeah.
And one of the things that used to, or still does mess things up, the old non-flushable wipes that people flush.
Yeah.
It would go in and jam up the equipment to the point where, you get motors moving and they get jammed up.
Well, they burn out.
They burn out and motors blow.
Right.
So,
so
that's coming up this week.
So that's where you usually get a bigger hit, but you have a big hit in this one.
Yep.
And I said it earlier, you have, and the Sentinel reported it, that you have the downtown plan that went from $7 million initially, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. That was the original estimate.
And the $14 million to now 16 point something, 8 or something like that.
Right.
And so my first question let's take a step back. So you come together. Do you take a tour of the projects? Do you visually go out to the places?
Capital improvements program now. We used to take a bus ride, going around places. We don't now because half the time the windows would be fogged up. So what they do now is this year we went to Heberton Hall and they just set up displays all over the place.
Very good.
And then they have the department head sitting at that display. In 4 to 5 years, we'll move around from display to display, and they'll explain it, and then you can ask questions there. And for those maybe newer counselors that actually haven't gone to, say, the fire station or the water treatment plant, you can talk to the department head and get a tour.
Yeah.
They'll take you down. I've been to all of those, as you have.
Yeah.
Some of the newer counselors haven't.
Yeah.
So, it's usually done within Heberton Hall, and not like the old bus rides we used to do. But
and I hope that you, as being the
old guy,
being the east side of Keene kind of guy,
met with those neighbors last night.
I hope that you advocate for Robin Hood Park, because all too often, if a budget is going to be a problematic budget year, you're not going to cut police, you're not going to cut fire, you're going to think twice about public works before you make a cut. So where are you going to cut? The easy hanging fruit is usually, we're going to have to push that off for a year and another year and another year.
The one thing at Robin Hood Park that won't get pushed off will be, we don't need the new pool, we can reline it and it'll last us 10 years. That's good news.
That's good.
That's good news. The rest of it, and there's nobody better than going after grants than Andy Bohannon, Director of Parks and Rec. So, I've seen all the proposals that they put out for Robin Hood Park. Some I think, maybe a little bit overdone, but if the grants are there,
Go for it.
Fine.
Unless there's legacy costs, ongoing costs that you have to think about, but otherwise go for it.
Right.
And even with legacy costs, if it's within the reasonable thought, then you can do it.
Well, two things we need definitely is, in my opinion anyhow, you need the pool open for the east side. You can't go... Everybody can't go to Wheelock Park.
Bussing them over to...
that doesn't work. The good news was we found out we can fix it without replacing it. The second one is the bathrooms up there in that little community center part down there. That's in disrepair. That needs to be replaced. Then for me, from there, then it's just a matter of if monies are available.
Yeah.
We go from there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one of the things that I used to enjoy, even though I was a terrible skater, but I could kind of sort of skate, was the events we used to have up at Robin Hood Park. They'd light the arena at night. They'd have all kinds of skating and outdoor hockey. Pond doesn't freeze anymore. We're right now, here we are, getting towards, end of the first week of February, and it doesn't look like it'll get open. It's going to be in the 50s again this weekend.
Yeah.
And so they've been doing little things like flooding areas out at Wheelock Park, where you only need a couple of inches of ice.
I would always say, go to Strawberry Bank in Portsmouth, and they've got that little rink over there.
Little outdoor rink, yeah.
And I would love to see something like that in front of the Keene Parks and Rec. I think that would be really cool.
That'd be cool. They have plenty of room at Wheelock Park, but once again, we have the east side. Who's to say maybe next year, if it looks like we're never going to get the Robin Hood Pond open again because of climate change, maybe we go down to Pat Russell Park now and maybe flood part of the rugby field and turn it into an ice rink.
Yeah.
There's all those things that we could look at. So, but no, I agree with you on the Robin Hood Park. But a lot of it's going to have to do with the money is there, which brings us back to the downtown project. How to go from 7 to 17. Well, as you know, I've been kind of a vocal critic of how this whole project's been handled. Still am. New mayors come in, and I think that's settled things down quite a bit. The 7 was never, in my opinion, a real number. I looked at that, and I had a couple of engineers get a hold of me that weren't involved with the project, just engineers that knew Keene. I know one of them contacted you, Chris.
Yeah.
And he got to me and he goes, no, that's the minimum of a $14 million project, I'll tell you right now. And he was right. And like the next estimate that came through was, it's $14 million. Now, obviously, you get some inflation, you get some increases on on parts and pieces and materials. We're going out looking for grants now. hopefully they find them, because
Well, that's what it is. What are they saying is the percentage of grants that they think they can get for this?
well, I mean,
Are they saying that they can cover 50% of the project? 100%?
Chris, I honestly take all that right now with a grain of salt.
Because
and I'm not saying
the more they go up for grants, does that push out the project that much more? Which means that inflation is only going to.
I don't think so.
And when I say inflation, it's not the same type of inflation that I'm talking about. It's just
Right.
cost. Every year there's a little bit more cost.
Yeah, of course. But interest rates are coming down a little bit, so that might offset each other. And I'm never worried about, the pipes are all going to blow now. Yeah, some of them are 100 years old. Well, if things get delayed a year, that means they're 101 years. I mean, that's a risk that you take.
How I look at it is that there's going to be a different color pavement wherever that went, because they're going to have to dig it up, replace it, and then move forward. Because that's what they've been doing for years now.
Right. Well, and a lot of it too is you don't really know what's down there.
Do they?
It's been a long time since we've replaced the surface in the 80s, but they haven't gone way down into the infrastructure.
CIP also tell you what roads are going to be done?
I'll have to look. It was just updated. Some of the roads that were going to be done. I don't have the list here right now.
Man, now I've asked 3 questions.
Well, you're asking the wrong questions. So the answer is yes. I don't think when the capital improvements, when this was printed, it changed. Of course, Public Works goes out and they'll look at some of the roads, and one of them will just have deteriorated faster over the winter.
Yeah.
And they'll go in and do it. One road that's planned to be done that everybody asks me about is Marlborough Street. Because you go down there now, I'll come back from a Keene High hockey game or a Keene State hockey game, and the cars come down at night. You see the headlights doing this, and you're like, "What the hell is that?" Well, it's hitting all the bumps. That was because the project ran a little bit higher than estimate, and the state didn't, or the state said they didn't have any extra money to finish paying for it.
Yeah.
So we're waiting for the state to finish paying for it. That looks like this year, and that's a major project. But yeah, there's some roads out there. We've definitely the sidewalk project's totally being redone, because there's some that have been on there 20 years and they've dropped it, and we're looking it all over again. And now we're going to be having a new Public Works director, and a fresh set of eyes will probably come in.
Any decision been made yet?
No.
No. Like you don't have any inside skinny that you may know and just tell me, and no one else will know. I won't.
Nobody else out there is listening. No, and quite honestly, I haven't dug into it. I'll let the city manager will come forward and say we hired somebody inside or we brought in somebody outside.
Yeah.
Good news was we hired 2 more police officers, so we're only down 5 now. We were down 10.
Yeah.
So it's like, but the problem there is we have a bunch that are eligible for retirement too.
Well, and the other thing is I wonder where these guys are coming from. Like, did you take from one place, like a town or something like that?
No, from what I heard, the 2 that just started were new.
Oh, good.
Everybody's trying to pilfer everybody.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just
it's crazy.
It's the way it is.
And we understand at the county level with the Department of Corrections that there are some people that want to do the work as a lifetime job, and there are some people that this is a stepping stone. Mm-hmm. This is like a feeder system for somebody like the Keene Police Department, this New Hampshire State Troopers, or whatever it may be, which is fine by us. But I'm always like, all right, did you just take one of our guys? So
the worst ones now are ones that never used to pilfer, and that's the state police. But their state police are way down.
How close are you? Like this group that's overseeing this whole downtown project.
Right.
How close are you to moving forward with doing anything? Like, where does it stand? I don't pretend to understand. You made some decisions, but did you really make decisions? Now that you have a new mayor in there, does that
new public works director
and a new council in theory?
Right.
So, is there reconsideration of where things are? I mean, how do you proceed? I don't understand.
Well, right now, what really got approved was a conceptual design, and that's all it was conceptual. We kind of agreed majority-wise.
So nothing.
Basically.
So how does it, if I'm paying somebody to do a conceptual design, but it's only conceptual, are they actually working on it? And are you gonna pay them money to do conceptual, then all of a sudden change because it's only conceptual? You know what I'm saying? I mean, are we throwing money out?
They will come back with a conceptual design, and I've got the dates here right now too. That they will come back and say your conceptual design works here because, or your conceptual design on an engineer's opinion doesn't work here because.
Yeah.
Or we could do it cheaper here. So the conceptual now goes from, kind of like a pencil with an eraser. We bring it down to kind of like an ink pen.
Yeah.
Will this work?
Well,
so,
and do they also have directions around because I've heard people talking about, we're taking trees out, especially down the middle of the road. We're taking parking out down the middle of the road, which some people feel is not the best thing to do. The bicycle lanes, should they stay? Should they go? Are these things all being discussed internally?
They will be. Well.
And then by the council after the fact?
Yeah, what's going to happen is coming up in...
And does it go, what committee does it go to?
MSFI.
Ooh.
Comes back to moi. So basically what is going to happen now, as you're aware, MSFI now only meets once a month. That could change a little while ago. Well, starting in March, we're back to twice a month. So the second Wednesday of March, April, and May, that may go longer than that, will be just to discuss the downtown project.
Yeah.
And then our regular meeting, the fourth Wednesday of the month, will be for everything else. Okay?
Yeah.
So that begins in March. On March 6th, it's a ways off, so you'll mark your calendars later. March 6th, at the rec center. So that's going to be a week before MSFI meets. So March 6th, there'll be two sessions, one from 3 to 4:30, one from 5:30 to 7. And basically what that's going to be is a workshop for citizens to go in and say, this is the conceptual on this part of the project that's going to go to MSFI next week. What do you think? So the public's going to have...
So all I have to do is walk across the street?
Yeah, we made it really convenient for you.
Thank
it was
you.
going to be farther away,
that.
but I said,
Yeah, Chris can only walk so far.
We're going to make it convenient for Chris. So that'll be on March 6th, April 3rd, May 1st. So for 3 months, we're looking at the downtown project in phases. And that's how it's going to be discussed at the rec center. And then it will come back to committee. So
is it something that actually has any level of impact if the citizens talk?
Yes.
Some people felt like, this is what I heard last time, is some people felt like there was a lot of pushback in that they weren't being heard. Now, I said to them, I said to some of these people that, well, I don't agree with that, because if I look at where they started to where they ended, it may be that you didn't get everything you wanted, but they changed a lot of things dramatically because there wasn't going to be a going through.
Central Square wasn't going to be Central Square anymore.
So I tried to make sure they understood that your voice did have some level of impact. Maybe not to the level you wanted it to, but it did have some level of impact. So I say that because I think sometimes people feel like, why go to these things? I think you should go to these things.
My complaint on this one was, you're absolutely right. The impact of the voters had everything to do with the change on this.
Yeah.
My argument was, why I was so angry with how it was being handled, that it was being handled by staff and they avoided the MSFI committee.
Yeah.
It was more behind the scenes project.
I don't know about the behind scenes stuff, but
my opinion was that the public wasn't even aware of it till after it was like, here it is.
The train left the station.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. This time around, it'll be way ahead of the game. Like I said, the public will have first dibs on it March 6th. 2 sessions, 3 to 4:30 and 5:30 to 7. So if you're work a night shift, you can go the day. If you work the day, you can do the night. So people have their opinion and their comments on it.
I'm looking at this neighborhood parking project thing, and I'm
switching gears a little bit.
No, but I'm not really. Is there in that book a place where you're going to address a parking garage or a facility that may have parking downtown and also some other buildings in it and stuff like that? When is that going to be? Because I feel like all of a sudden we're going to be doing this downtown thing, and that's going to be $16 million, and then 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to be looking at another $20 million to do this parking garage. And I just would like to, I personally would like to get the full vision as a citizen and a taxpayer. I'd like to get the full vision of what, because I think it's all needed, how it gets done, and the cost, and maybe and it's a whole different story.
Yep.
But I would like to have you guys start to show me and tie me into what's this mean? Is the Arts Corridor thing still on some levels on the table? Because I got something from Arts Alive the other day that says that there's maybe still some opportunity for some of those things to happen. I'd just like to get the full vision.
A lot of the problem right now is still privately owned land, and the city's still talking to answer the question of a parking deck. Yes, that's still being looked at somewhere in the Gilboa Ave area.
Yeah,
there's still discussions. You can't really come out and say, hey, here's our concept. Oh, it's on private property. Never mind. We haven't got an agreement for that yet.
Yeah.
So yes, my opinion is there will be a parking deck maybe in my lifetime. My opinion is it will be on Gilboa Ave.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of you getting these private property owners to come to some kind of an agreement.
When Email Ledger built in the Colony Mill,
right?
We talked about what the true downtown was, and with that building of the Colony Mill, it brought out a more in-depth view of the downtown area.
Right.
And then you flip it on the other side. We had, if you remember, Roxbury Street was a dead street.
Mm-hmm.
It was a dead street. Really struggling. With buildings from Aubuchon's to Juni's to the Y to what was the grocery store?
A&P.
A&P. Thank you. All those buildings, and we didn't. And the middle school was not sold yet.
Right.
So now you look at it. Middle school sold. That's populated. It's bustling with schools and with apartments and other things that are going on in there. There's talk about the possibility of putting a high-end restaurant in there, or some sort of bar in there of some sort. Don't know if that will ever come to fruition, but they've talked about it.
Yep.
So that's all out there. That's really had an impact. And that's helped the store, Jake's 5 Star. They
do a phenomenal job.
And then you have, Goodnose, what is it? The attorneys that used to have right there, Are We, and all that. That building has been re-energized. And then you've got Moco, and then you've got the whole rest of the street in Hannah Grimes with what they did there, and 21, and all these other. It's given depth. And then you go down to Cypress Street, where the food co-op and Southwest Community Services and other things are going on.
Right.
That gives us depth. On the flip side, is there more that we can do to really make that connection out to Colony Mills, out to Elm City Brewery, like we've talked about in the past? You've got the development of Bender's and all these other things down in that area. Does that, by making that connection all the way through, all of a sudden you have a even more thriving downtown area.
Right.
Because I will tell you, if you go to Portsmouth, and I went there 2 weekends ago, and Portsmouth is the same side. Now, I get their wealth radius within 100 miles is completely different than ours.
Yep.
And they've got the seacoast, and I get all that. But they've got depth all the way around.
Right.
And they've got all kinds of different things going on there. And I just think the more we can build out and strengthen ourselves, the healthier we're going to be. And the more we can give parking to downtown, not give, but they pay for it. But for residents that are living downtown, it changes the socioeconomic downtown a little bit too.
And that's what you have in front of you here, Chris. You have the downtown parking project. That's all going to be part of that, and that's what we're looking at. If we want people to live more downtown, we've got to free up parking.
Yeah.
And we're talking about that. How do we, if you want to increase more people living in the area, they have to have a place to park their car.
Yeah.
And so it actually is a priority.
Yeah.
And that's before MSFI also. We've got a lot of major projects before us. But you are right, because if you look at Gilboa Ave and you look horizontally to it, on one side is West Street running parallel.
Yeah.
You have Emerald Street running parallel.
Right.
And Emerald Street now is bustling, as you just pointed out. But that whole area between Emerald Street and West Street, namely Gilboa Ave, is so underdeveloped. So underdeveloped.
But you know what it also does, though? It puts pressure on, and I've seen some change over the last few years, which I think is healthy too, on all those houses between Winchester Street and Gilboa Ave, the housing for Keene State College students and all that, some of that's changed actually,
Right.
especially with the population going down. It's gone into single home residencies and other type of. So that's been, but it puts pressure on. All of a sudden, we're bringing up the neighborhoods on some levels. So I just think, you've got Brewbakers over there. You've got, some
Fire Dog Breads.
All that's going well. And even where the plumbing used to be. What's that? Economy Plumbing. What is in there?
Deborah Vest owns that building. She used to own
Elm City
Brewery. She bought that building. She has businesses in there right now.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
She repaved the parking lot.
Looks great.
She upgraded, put solar
Yeah.
power down there.
Yeah.
So, that would be right in the middle of the two. So, I mean, you are right. So, as far as what you said about the parking deck and stuff, it'll be Gilboa Ave at some point. It's just a matter of we got to find the property. And, does the city build it? Or do you find maybe a developer that'll come in? Because developers don't like to build parking decks because they're not profitable. They pretty much stay away from parking decks. But if you get a development where the first floor, maybe the first and the second floor are businesses.
A facade of businesses in apartments and
apartments, and then maybe the top 2 floors or 3 floors are parking.
Yeah. And do we also have to start looking up? Building up.
Yes. Yep. Yep. We do.
You know that place that where you had your bar, Railroad Tavern.
Yep.
Back in the day. I would think that some developer would go in there and say, I'm going to buy this from who.
Sanborn.
And say, but I'm going up.
Yep.
And I'm going to put some apartments, mixed use condos, whatever it is. But I'm going up. And down here, I'm going to rent out. It's funny, and you don't have to go up when you think about building up. If you go down Roxbury Street and you look at the building on your left, that's 7 stories. Mm-hmm.
People think 7. People, if you ask most people in Keene, they'll say, if you ask what's your highest apartment building in Keene, they'd probably say 4 stories. Now that one's 7 stories, and it's not that high.
Mm-hmm.
So you can literally first floor businesses, and then, or maybe even first floor street level parking.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're right. But we know who owns that building, so we'll see. He's obviously got his legal problems right now. He might need some cash. So
I'm just trying to if you reinvented and let downtown evolve a little bit, going up a little bit with some of these buildings isn't a bad thing.
We've got to do it because the population of Keene has been the same now for basically 2 decades now.
Yeah.
We like to say 1 decade, but it's basically been 23,000 people now for 20 years.
Yeah.
And the cost of everything goes up, but our population hasn't. So we definitely need to, in the communities like Keene with strong downtowns survive.
Yeah.
People love the small downtowns.
Can I ask you a question? Go in a different direction real quickly.
Yeah.
The whole casino thing. I know we got about 3 minutes. The whole casino thing downtown. Where's that stand? What's the next step for that?
Well, as we're talking here on Tuesday, tomorrow night it'll go back to PLD again, and they're talking about it. And it's kind of funny, Chris, as we just talked about the owner of that building downtown, who's Sanborn.
Yeah.
Obviously he just got told by the state, you've got to unload your casino because you broke multiple laws.
Yeah.
What we're seeing now and what I'm hearing now is there are so many unanswered questions about the casinos. It's like, what's happened with the casinos now? They were all intended to be mom and pop casinos. And what I'm hearing is you've got developers like Wonder Casino, and there's a few others in the state that are owned by a conglomerate out of Connecticut. There is concern now. They're not worried about an individual downtown Keene that might own one business putting in a small casino. I mean, somebody might have a problem with it. I don't. My concern would be, and I heard some other concerns, that if one of these conglomerates from Connecticut comes in and says, you know what, we're buying a whole block downtown and we're going to make that whole block a casino. Does that fit Keene's structure?
Well,
so those are just some of the questions.
It's to me, it's one of those situations where the state of New Hampshire has half-assed it. Excuse my French.
Completely
half-assed it, and really having and they can say that we have clear directives on what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it. And I get all that. I get it. And there seems to be at least one bad apple in that group that's doing it.
One bad apple's been caught so far.
But it's not about that. It's about what you just said. Can they come in and create this monster and I don't mean monster, but I mean bigger. And it's
20,000 square feet.
It's like when Applebee's came in here, they took a look at how to do their store, and they made it a little bit smaller to meet the market, and it's been a huge success for them. One of the busiest ones in the country. So somebody come in and say, we don't need this, but we need this, and this is bigger than what we have currently, kind of thing.
Right.
I don't know, but what I do know is this. I struggle with the idea of, first and foremost, if I don't know how I feel about the casino. I don't care about that. I have real concerns about the city stepping into this one and what's next. So
I agree.
I personally can't support it, but I don't have a vote in it. You do.
Right.
And my struggle is, at the end of the day, it's not going to have neon lights.
No.
I shouldn't say that, but you know what I'm saying, like this big casino thing. Because you have ordinances that are going to say this is what you can do. So what is it really that this person wants to do? This person owns a bar and has food in that bar, and they want to add some gaming tables.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I
don't know. And it was brilliant on the former owner of Wonders, Jared Goodell. He pointed out things. He put things, but they're factually shouldn't be even considered. Like, casinos, they always get bigger. Well, wait a second. We're talking about this. We're not talking about that. But he planted the seed. So, hey, we're out of here. We got to go.
We'll stay tuned. We'll be back next week to finish it up.
Yep.
We're out of here. The fire alarm's going off.